And imagine if they snuck in there a bunch of spicy jokes. Imagine the one they cut out. Imagine the ones they cut out, dude. It can be insane. So guys, this is the Path of Exile developer interview for Kane Bennett, the audio and narrative director. Everybody is saying that this interview is really cool, it is really fun, and they talk about cool stuff. So of course that I wanna watch it. Since I am a big yapper, I am going to put this in 125 speed, so I am not 2 hours in here. So let's watch the interview, dude.
Goblin pet.
Oh no.
Why?
Oh dear.
Hello Exiles. Welcome to the first of our dev interview videos. I'm Eben, I make trailers and other marketing bits here at Grinding Gear. We're starting the series because we want to give you some insight into who our devs actually
Hey, that is a cool fucking statue of a city, dude. Would you suck on the 4 titties or only on the top 2?
are behind the Mark and Jonathan of it all. We've done written interviews before, but nothing beats a good chat. Today, Kane is the first brave soul to appear on camera. You might have seen Kane at ExileCon, where he talked about audio
By the way, if they continually do this, but with different people on the team, that is a good initiative that I would love to see happen.
design in Path of Exile 2. So, what do you do at GGG?
Okay, hang on. So if I'm gonna do that, do I really need to go through a run through of how I started as a sound designer? Does that sound lame?
No, it's cool.
Okay, all right, do it again.
Sure, okay.
Sorry. Well, it's a good question.
So he's assuming, no, they will edit this shit. They will edit this shit out of the video later. Okay.
Question, isn't it? I started here many moons ago as a sound designer, sort of worked my way from there to leading the audio team, getting more involved in dialogue, and then became audio director. And in recent times, I've also taken on narrative and building that out as a department because, you know, for PoE, narrative's not really been a department as such. It's been a thing that's there and it happens. You know, there's people around and they make it happen. But now we're like actually trying to redefine what the story and narrative parts of PoE are in a way that doesn't hinder gameplay and actually just feels complementary, something that you can digest and understand. So
I have to say, now that I played PoE 1 and what I have played so far of PoE 2 in terms that the campaign is not completed, even with just the 3 acts that we have right now, I feel that the Path of Exile 2 story is more compelling than what we have in PoE 1. PoE 1 story definitely ramps up in maps because you get to the cosmic eldritch beings, and that is really fucking cool. But if we compare campaign to campaign, I think that the story in Path of Exile 2 is definitely more narrative driven, more compelling. You feel more immersed in the story, in the campaign in PoE 2, in my opinion.
So, you know, like the boss fights, we try and pump as much narrative into those as now too, like the Geonor slam poetry, bit of that.
I was going to tell it, brother, everybody so far in PoE 2, this is like the top fight for everybody. Like when you ask anyone, what is your favorite boss fight in PoE 2? Geonor. And it is because of different things. First of all, it is the at this point in the game, it is when you face him for the first time, it is the hardest boss fight yet. So it was a challenge and you had to fight him several times before beating him. So you got to experience a lot of him. You were focused. You wanted to beat him. Also, the music in the fight is cool. The scenario where you fight him is cool. The boss itself is cool. It is a count dude with a big fucking sword throwing ice shit, and he transforms into a big bad wolf. The dialogue is cool. This is when he yells to Oriana, "You manipulative whore!" You know, like everything is into place. The mechanics in the fight are fun to do. Everything falls into place for this to be an awesome boss fight. So it is definitely in the at least top 3 best fights in Path of Exile 2.
That's pretty cool.
Our enemy endured, but soon
This is a cool fight.
How long did it take you to go from starting to just being the director of all of it?
I think it's like 7 years now,
7 years.
something like that.
So you've been here a while. What's special about Path of Exile for you?
What's special about Path of Exile is also special about GGG is that You know, we kind of work at breakneck speeds, pivoting whenever we need to make sure we're doing the right thing for the moment. You know, like what players are thinking.
So you're reading reviews and
That is a good outlook to have. Like, if what we are doing doesn't work, we have to pivot. That is what D4 has not done. They didn't pivot when they needed to pivot, dude.
you're pivoting, reading forums.
Yeah, or just like someone comes up with a cool idea, and in larger companies that might be hard to pivot, so hard to make that work because you've got
I just gave you the perfect example.
X number of dependencies on what you're doing and sticking to that. Whereas we're like, nah, let's do it. It also has moments of stress and chaos, but that is part of the fun and mitigating that.
As an aside, I think I finally understand why everyone sits on these chairs like this. 'Cause they're so deep. You can't sit up because it would look weird. You can't just sit back because it looks weird. You have to.
Am I slow?
That is a good, that is something good to know, because people always were making fun in the CGG interview with Jonathan and Mark. People always say, why are they sitting like that? I don't know why people have a problem with how people sit. Let them sit however the fuck they want to sit. But people were commenting that shit. So my boy in here is addressing it. They sit like that because you go deep and it is comfortable to do that. So okay, good to know.
Crouching, probably.
Most recently, your team put a lot of love into the mercenaries of Trathis. Were they as fun to make as I imagine?
Yes. That was, that was fun. It was like, what started off as the league will be based around mercenaries.
GGG, brother, hire me already, dude. I could be one of the people that go into this interview. Hey, I just started doing silly YouTube videos, and now I am here working at GGG, and it is awesome. Hey, I am like Mark. GGG, please, dude. I kinda need a job. GGG, please.
You get a mercenary, you hire one, you'll run around with them. And then we sort of suggested the Trathis thing. It's like a place we haven't learned too much about. So we got to do that completely. Starting with we knew we needed some mercenary personalities, and coming up with a bunch of interesting personalities is difficult. Like, you get to a point where you struggle to come up with the next one. And someone posted on Twitter.
Definitely, maybe you say, I already have the cocky one, I already have the arrogant one, I already have the sad one, I already have the coward one. So what do I do next? Something like that.
About one of the ambusher ones, because he just kind of speaks gibberish. And it was literally like we were just getting tired of trying to come up, and we just like wrote any old crap on there, and hang on, let's do that.
But it works! Do you see how sometimes you do something just to do it and it works? It sounded cool, dude!
Can't just mash the keyboard.
So that was fun. But no, it was fun, and we sort of developed a whole like house family system of Trathans, like the idea being the Eternal Empire way back when were casting out their worst criminals, sending them to a place essentially to die, right? But when they got there, instead, they did very well for themselves and sort of assembled these houses and families of death trades. So, it's like Australia, right?
Mercenaries of Trathis is Australia.
Yeah, it's just,
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And they're all Australians. Why didn't we give them Australian accent?
Oh, we didn't want to be too blatant with it. No, just kidding. We have Australians on the team. It was just an in-joke.
Cool. On to the important questions.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Goblin pet.
Oh, no.
Why?
Oh, dear. Well, look, we have an issue system, right? An issue tracking system, like a job system. And I get an issue for this pet that's going to, be a band pet and sing and stuff. So I'm like, cool, well, I'll make that as good as I can. And I was at home, and I just had Mike, and I did some scat goblin vocal stuff, right? Thinking nothing of it. And Camille and Michael, music guys, got involved and added the music part, and we developed, oh, shit, this is quite cool. Great, happy with that. Now, my voice is the most hated thing in the fucking game. It's not my fault. I didn't come up with the idea, but I gotta own that.
That's the way it should be. You've left a mark where it matters.
I mean,
that is really cool, guys. You know that is really cool.
It's kind of fun at the same time.
It's pretty fun. Pivoting to...
I hate that little thing, by the way. And I know that a lot of people do.
Path of Exile 2. Has it been very different working on that? Because we've been here working on Path of Exile 1, now 2.
Well, yeah, I've kind of been working on PoE 2 most of the time I've been here, funnily enough. It's still not out, no. I mean, that is the nature of making a whole new thing and pushing. I mean, it is enjoyable to work on, 100%. Like every time, working on PoE 1 is familiar, and I wouldn't say it's easy, and we still try and push ourselves, but there is a certain expectation on PoE 2 that it just makes everything a little bit more time-consuming to create. Yeah.
And I have to imagine it is different working on something that is already finished, in quotes, or developed, and you are just trying to add a cool feature, than developing something from the ground up, which is what is happening with PoE 2. It is an unreleased, unfinished game. The challenges have to be greater in that case, right?
We push ourselves on the narrative side, the story side, and dialogue. Obviously, like the player characters are all talking throughout, trying to give them more personality, which was it's a hard thing to find the balance of when they should shut up and when they should talk. But
how do you find that balance? Because that's such an interesting.
Well, I don't even know if we have yet. So some people. It is hard because through the campaign, it's interesting. At endgame, if they're constantly yapping about currency and, there are things to iron out. But that's the beauty of early access and figuring it out. I don't know, do I seem like me? Or do I seem like a stuck-up version of me? Man, it's hard.
It's pretty consistent with how you were at Exile.
So fat? Fuck you, bro. Fuck you.
That's going in. That's going in.
It's pretty...
What's
Let me see something. Which one of the two is him? Because whatever version of him it is, he changed a lot. If it is the guy with the hair, now he's bald. And if it is the other guy, he lost a whole lot of weight. Which, hey, my man, congratulations. That is fucking awesome, right? But which one is him?
Do I seem like me? Or do I seem like a stuck-up version of me? Man, it's hard.
It's pretty consistent with how you were at Exile.
So fat?
Oh, he's the fat dude. He's the fat dude. He's say so fat. Hey, brother, congrats on your journey, my dude. I am also trying to lose weight, dude. This is fucking awesome.
Fuck you, bro. Fuck you.
That's going in. That's going in.
It's pretty...
What's the best sound from anything? Your favorite sound, take your time. We can edit it to make it look like you replied just like that.
Star Wars, right? Like, pick something, any moment in Star Wars, and there's like so many iconic sounds that you just...
How do they do that? That's true.
That is true. Star Wars has a lot of iconic sounds and music. The sound design in Star Wars is... I have to be fair. I have only watched the base 6 movies. I have not watched TV shows or the 3 new expansion ones with Disney. I have not watched anything Disney with Star Wars. No, that is not true. I watched the movie Rogue One. That is the only Star Wars things that I have watched from Disney. And the 6 original movies. And the sound design in those 6 original movies is really fucking cool, dude.
It, man. He's just a wizard. The lightsabers, it was all like in-world, real-world stuff, not conjured. That's pretty cool.
Do you do much of that here? Like,
Dom and Dominic on the skills side and Michael on the music side, they've got all Eurorack sort of stuff that they use to synthesize sounds. But
hi, how's it going? This is where I make my sounds. Behind me, you'll see my Eurorack modular synth. This is where I make...
Otherwise, we do some recording.
Why did you cut him out, dude? I wanted to hear how that dude makes sound. Yeah, you will have to make a video with that dude teaching us how to make sounds with his synthesizer. That is the kind of thing that I want to learn about, dude. Where the dude says, I did this sound by tweaking this, and he... Boom! I want to watch that. What the fuck? You cut him out, dude.
Of Foley and bits and pieces. For the Karui stuff, we're doing some recordings of local instruments, and yeah, we try.
We recorded a whole Kapahaka group.
We did.
Which we haven't showed footage of, but we could do that now.
We could do that. We could do that. We had them in a hall, and everyone was just going for it. Doing all sorts of things for Trial of the Ancestors, so that will obviously carry over into other Karui stuff. So we're trying to do more of that.
Do you have a favorite thing you've worked on so
Hey, that is cool as fuck, dude.
far? PoE 2?
I suppose in general, just in PoE 2, building up ambiences and the overall world building we can bring with sound and character dialogue, NPCs, monsters, all sorts of stuff, like how that contributes to making it feel like a world and a place.
Slavery will not be necessary when the dreamer awakes.
And, like I mentioned earlier, the Geonor slam poetry, that's an example that I'm proud of where we kind of got that happening, you know, like it's complementary to gameplay, the combat's still happening, but it's just sort of there. It wasn't actually planned, it was just something that I was trying last minute with the actor when we were reworking some parts of his vocal in the fight.
Are all audio designers just musicians that need more money for gear?
Yes.
Cool.
It's it's an obsession. Like if I have better gear, my sound will be better, and it's not true. Don't tell. No, just go along with them. Like
Don't tell Dominic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, nice. If you see if he's got another module on his Euro rack, if you said to him, "Wow, nice new module," he'd probably cry with joy, like, for being validated.
Swishes and swoops. Makes lots of noisy sounds. Explosions, swishes, tonal bells, and evil drones. Anything that you could imagine, you can create here.
Do
With
it.
these patch cables.
Do you have any cool
Do it. Teach me how. Hey, teach me how to do it, dude. You have a whole one of these with that dude.
tidbits or like spoilers or things you can tell us about what you're working on, maybe? Sanctioned?
Well, I don't know if I can share it, but we'll try. We, historically, PoE1, you're running around, you're talking to an NPC, and they do the scrolling monologue of what they have to say to you, which, is fine. That is an approach. But I wanted it to be a more back and forth conversation between NPCs and the player character, so that you get a more unique experience on a character per class of how they interact with the NPCs and what they think of what they're saying. And
it makes a lot of sense, because the PCs are somewhat...
That is cool. Also requires more work, right? Because what a lot of games do when they have different characters, classes, they just do the same thing, and maybe they do it like in WoW, where you have a placeholder and it says High Warlock or High Warrior, depending on the class you are playing, but the rest of the dialogue is exactly the same. It definitely requires more work to do it differently depending on the class, but it is also cooler. You feel different playing on different classes. By the way, in PoE 2 different classes have different like dialogue lines to different scenarios is really cool. For example, that part that they showed earlier where the monk goes to the front of the caravan and he says, "Oh, the slaves." Like each class, if you haven't realized yet because you have not played with all classes yet, each class has a different line that they say when they see the slaves for the first time. That is cool. I love that.
The most interesting characters in the game. Everyone wants to know who they're playing.
The characters in town are cool, but they're cooler if you involve the player character and what they think, and then you get that, because some of the player characters are a bit deranged, like the witch. So
her being able judgments and
her being able to have a conversation with wholesome Renly is just going to be fun. It is worth noting. You may think, oh gosh, I will have to skip even more dialogue. Well, no, because the NPCs will naturally have a bit less to say because they're not monologuing everything. You have a more engaging conversation about things, which is generally a bit...
Like, you can find out more if you want to. Like, oh, I want to know more about this thing. Then you can click the dialogue option when they are going to explain it. If you don't give a fuck, you just go and you don't click that. So no, you skip way less dialogue in PoE 2 than in PoE 1.
Shorter and concise, but more like interesting. So it's actually in the testing we've done, it feels really good, and maybe we can even show a little prototype. I don't know.
At least not till our ancestors took in the Val. And folks still bicker over whether that were a mistake.
I've no love for the Val, but if not for their virtue gems, our village would be a smouldering ruin right now.
Aye, and you'd have died in Azmiri rather than an outcast.
You think that preferable?
Favorite game soundtrack or audio that isn't ours?
Exactly. That is different when you talk to him with the Huntress than when you talk to him with the other classes, because you both are Azmiri. That is cool.
Oh my god. I mean, I feel obliged to say Diablo too, but
really?
A little bit. I mean, it is cool. I mean, actually, I'm a big Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 nerd. Like, those were my games when I was a kid. Like,
I haven't played a Final Fantasy in my fucking life, so you know. Because I've always thought they looked kinda lame. I know I am probably wrong and I should play them. And I had a PlayStation, which is a console where you play Final Fantasy. but I always thought they looked lame and I never played them.
The Final Fantasy VII soundtrack was pretty sick.
We can't play that for copyright reasons.
No, but
I'll
you know,
believe
it's good. Look it up.
Just look it up.
Look it up, kids.
How did you end up working in the audio world? Like, what was your path to get here?
Since high school, I'd been in rock bands and things. Doing, you know,
That is fucking cool, my man. Keep rocking, dude.
playing heavy metal music. Yeah,
Nice.
and through that,
My
I
man.
studied audio engineering, and I worked in recording studios, recording bands like here and abroad. But I'd always been a gamer, and I'd always loved that part of it. And for some time, I'd wanted to get into game audio, and there wasn't really an opportunity. But classic New Zealand, you know someone who knows someone, that whole thing. And I heard of a job at GGG, and at that time there was only one other guy here, right? So, and I was determined. You know, I'm getting an interview no matter what. Like that has to happen. And I don't know how it would go these days, but I somehow got Eric's email and was just like spamming him directly, like day after day, until he gave me an interview. And it was good. He was very relaxed, wearing socks only, and and shorts. I mean, just no shoes, you know, not just socks.
Very
socks,
formal, yep.
Shorts, t-shirt, right? Was still
What were you dressing?
acceptable. I was like this, you know. I like dressing up to come to work. Anyway, but he was very serious and but cool, and the studio seemed cool and exciting, and yeah, I was lucky enough to get in.
What is your favorite band?
My favorite band.
Good question, brother. What can? There are too many bands to try to try to guess. Like, I want to guess his favorite band. He's not going to say. I have to take the context that I have, right? The context that I have is the band that they just showed. He likes D2 music. He likes Final Fantasy. And the music we have in Path of Exile already. It is too hard to try to pinpoint exactly what his favorite band is. So yes, I say some power metal European band, something Stratovarius, Blind Guardian, Rhapsody of Fire, Dragon Force, something like that. Let's see what he says. Maybe I am totally wrong with my reading here.
It's probably, I'm old, you know, so I like old school metal, like not even super heavy, just like 80s, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black.
Okay, I am completely off base in here. I didn't think he was going to go that way. It was way easier to go that way, brother. But hey, those are good picks, by the way. Iron Maiden is awesome.
Sabbath. And, you know, back in the day when I was in a band, we got to play with Ozzy Osbourne, so that was pretty cool. That's my claim to fame.
He played with Ozzy. That is awesome, dude.
Got to shake his hand and say thank you, and he said something incoherent and walked away.
Brother, he said something incoherent. Brother, have you ever heard Ozzy say something non-incoherent? It is impossible. Everything he says is incoherent.
That was fun.
My final question is related to that. Would you be mad if we posted a link to your music video from 14 years ago?
That is good, dude. I like it.
It's so annoying, you know. Like last night, I'm looking at the questions and I'm thinking to myself, I have to talk like that and I'll say this thing, and I'm all this like fun guy, and then I get here and I'm not. What is that? What is that? It's the real fucking corporate shill. What am I now? Fucking loser. 40-year-old loser.
Let's go. That's we gotta open. Yeah, we gotta open with that.
That it is called that self-awareness. Like, brother, I am a rocker, and I am just a dude with a button-up shirt, working in a corporation. No, brother, but you are doing an awesome job in a game in Path of Exile. You are not a sellout, dude.
There is something about being in front of the cameras that, like,
Yeah, you just start saying stuff. You don't talk like this.
no.
Fucking.
Like, imagine if I did Build of the Week in my normal voice. Welcome to Build of the Week. I'm Eben from Planning Games.
Welcome to Build of the Week.
All right. Thank you very much, Kane, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Downstairs. two flights down.
Yeah.
From your office.
Yeah, back to the grind.
Back to the grind. Making
Thanks.
more goblins.
Hey, brother, that interview was awesome. People were right. The interview is fucking cool, dude. I hope they keep doing more like this, by the way, with other people from the team, because it is really, really cool. Also, I like the guy, obviously, both of them. And imagine if they snuck in there a bunch of spicy jokes. Imagine the one they cut out. Imagine the ones they cut out, dude. It can be insane. But yes, this was really fucking cool. GG, keep doing it. Don't stop. This has gotten a good reception. Just keep doing it, dude.